Welcome to the second installment of Learning LOVR. So in this one, we're going to cover just basic Lua code. So last time we went through the Getting Started tutorial where we actually ran a simple LOVR function which showed in a VR space basically the words "Hello World." In this next one, we're going to follow the Learn Lua in 15 minutes tutorial here. But before we do all that, you're going to need to install Lua. Now, if you're on a Mac, which I am, and you might want to follow these steps, but if you're on a Windows machine, I would suggest going to the Lua website and following their instructions for installing. Before you start, you'll need to install Xcode Select, which is basically the Xcode command line tools. And to install that, let's see, there should be a very simple command. Oh, there it is. So you just want to do Xcode Select install. And this will allow you to use something called Brew. So once you install Xcode, you can do Brew Install. So you go to docs.brew.sh, and it has installation steps. Actually, if we just go to the home page for it, for brew.sh, you can copy and paste this into your command. Do this after you install Xcode, because otherwise you might wind up with issues. After you have all that installed, or if you already have it installed, you can do a brew update and upgrade. Then you can do brew install Lua, and it will tell me I've already installed it. But Lua allows you to run Lua commands and files, which basically it's the same as LOVR, except so for instance, if we go to Lua in 15 minutes, if we do something, let's say put in a print line, and we did LOVR /, you'd see Hello World, and you also get the VR console. Now, since we're just learning a little bit of Lua here, we actually don't even want to do any of the LOVR stuff at all. Now, in the Visual Studio Code, you want to install something to kind of help you with formatting of Lua code. So if you go into the you go into the Visual Studio Code extensions, there's the Lua extension for SUMNEKO. He created this one, or she. And if you install that, it will help with formatting your code. So, if I do format, document, so after you have that installed, you also want to install Formatter. I use this one by Tencent, Tencent. Install that. And now after that's installed, you can go back to the Lua file, format document, and that makes the code nicely formatted. Let's try that again. That's interesting. It doesn't seem to follow comments very nicely. But some settings that you might need to set up in your Visual Studio Code is I usually do format on save, and then I usually also set up it to save automatically when I exit, when I move outside of the file. This is stuff to look up for Visual Studio Code. I won't really cover it right now, But yeah, those really helps. This way you can just move to the terminal and then start typing. So if I just do this and I go to the terminal without even saving, it already saved it and it changed the value and also formatted it nicely. A couple things. This here shows up as undefined. If we go into here and we quick fix it, mark lover as defined global. So that added to VSCode, I believe, some settings for that. But now it won't show up as an error anymore. So since we're not going to do any of this, I do command question mark and it turns that into commented out code. And now let's go into the actual Lua document, Lua in 15 minutes. So I'm going to assume that everyone watching this has some experience with programming. Lua is a dynamically typed language, so you can basically just say num equals 42. You can set values like this, single quotes, double quotes. You can do square brackets to do extra lines with multi-line strings. Anything that is set to nil is considered undefined. You can do while loop. So if I wanted to do something like this, I could say, let's do a print line. Print num. And what's nice about that is we can, instead of doing lover, which tries to do the VR, there's no things to actually print out to the graphics or anything. No, there's no draw command. So so I'm just going to type Lua and /. Oh, Lua does not take a directory like lover does. So what is the problem here? Variable name. Okay. Equals 0. Global variable. Global variable is in lowercase initial. Okay. So I guess for global variables, there's an idea that you should have them be uppercase. And it counts to 50. Not sure what this error message is here. I'm not doing any plus or plus equals. If I cut this out, does it actually do anything? Oh, that was a copy paste. That's why. All right. So generally, it's considered a linting error if you use lowercase variables that are globals. Simple conditionals, if then. I'm not going to go too far into that. io.write, guessing that defaults to standard output, so you can do command line type stuff and actually have it output to standard out, which can be read into something else. Oh wait, oh here we go. So let's try this. So this will write it to the terminal, and then we can do IO read local. I'm guessing local is supposed to be just inside this if-else statement. We're not even doing it in the if-else, so that's kind of interesting. And then we can do this. So hello world. So this does a write, and this does a read. I'm guessing that you probably also just do this as a print statement as well. Not exactly sure what the difference becomes for that. Oh, it does create an extra line spacing. Alright. Let's see what else is interesting. Undefined variables return nil. This is not an error, so an unknown variable is considered nil, so foo becomes set to nil. A Boolean value equals false, so if not a Boolean value, then print twas end. Yeah, so a lot of this, so this is an interesting one. So in JavaScript, you can usually do a ternary expression where you have A equals B some Boolean value 1, 2. So what that means in JavaScript is if this is true, return 1, else return 2. So if we did that, we do a print A. That doesn't work in Lua, but we can do and, or, it's lowercase, and then some Boolean value equals false, and this we don't need anymore. So this, we'll say this is a local variable. All right, 2. All right, but if I said true, 1. So this statement here is basically makes it so you can do kind of what a ternary expression is, and it's called short-circuiting in this type of system. All right, for I equals 1, 100 do. So basically this does it until I is equal to 100. More traditional for loop would be for j equals 100. Where it's going to and where it and then the increment value. So basically it steps down -1 till 100 gets to 1 for j. These are functions, and function fib n seems pretty apparent. It will do this and return a value. What's nice is you can do anonymous functions, also kind of referred to as currying. You can, in essence, create a function dynamically. So, for instance, if we have this, and we say this, I would do instead, I'd say add 9, and this would be add 36. So these are functions that are created from this that take whatever x is and will add it to whatever y is that gets passed into it. So now this is a function, and we can say add 9 to it, and then we can also add 36 to this. And you can see 25 and 100, which is what was expected. Let's see if we can get rid of this message error here, because it's fairly annoying. Disable diagnosis in lowercase. This workspace. Yeah, let's get rid of that. Alright, that's cool. And the VSCode setting that was changed, disable lowercase global. Yeah, that sounds good. Some people might feel that that's a bad choice, but It's just easier to write in lowercase. Okay. You can set a bunch of variables like this. The last one will get ignored. I'd probably avoid writing code like this because this can be a little confusing. But this can be something probably that you can, maybe you can split up an array of things like this. I'm not sure. That's a good question. Let's see. Value is null because the number of values. Okay, so can you do something like this? Guess not.